Welcome to The Explainer. We're all about finding the incredible stories hidden inside data, research, and important texts. Today, we're digging into an account from the Book of Acts in the Christian New Testament. It's a story about a mission with huge stakes that just fell apart. But what's really fascinating is the forgotten postscript and what it tells us about failure, conflict, and the amazing power of a second chance.
See, this is a story about a team that completely imploded. It kicks off with someone just up and leaving, which then leads to this really bitter conflict, but it ends with a surprising lesson on what it actually takes to find redemption.
So, our story begins with a mission and a specially chosen team. You've got Barnabas, who's the seasoned, veteran leader. Then there's Paul, a brilliant and, let's say, intense rising star. And with them is Barnabas's young relative, John Mark, who's there to help out. Their community sends them off with really high hopes and a ton of support.
And at first, the mission is a huge success. They leave Antioch, head to Cyprus, and have this major breakthrough after a very public showdown. But then, the momentum comes to a screeching halt. The moment they land in Perga, on the coast of what's now Turkey, the team just hits a wall.
And just like that, he was gone. The original text gives us zero immediate explanation. He simply abandons the mission and goes home to Jerusalem. It leaves this massive question mark hanging over the whole thing.
So you have to wonder, why did he leave? Was he just homesick? Maybe scared of the dangerous journey that was ahead? Well, the text suggests the real reason isn't what happened in Perga, but what happened right before it. A really subtle but absolutely critical shift in the team's power dynamic.
To really get why Mark left, we have to rewind back to Cyprus. The team came up against this local sorcerer and political advisor, a guy named Elymas, who tried to stop a Roman official from listening to their message. And, well, let's just say things escalated quickly.
Now, in this incredibly tense standoff, you'd think the leader, Barnabas, would be the one to respond, right? But no, it was Paul. He's the one who steps forward and delivers this absolutely fiery takedown. It was an act of authority so powerful, it reportedly left the sorcerer blind and the Roman official totally convinced. This right here, this was the moment everything changed.
And here is the clue, hiding in plain sight in the text itself. Before this confrontation, the story always refers to the group as Barnabas and his companions. But immediately after, the language flips. From that point on, it's Paul and his companions. The leadership baton had just been passed, publicly and, very dramatically.
And this seems to be the real catalyst. John Mark's sudden departure, it probably wasn't just about quitting the mission. It was almost certainly a reaction to this fundamental change in who was calling the shots.
The source gives us a few possibilities to think about. First, loyalty. He was Barnabas's relative, and his uncle had just been publicly sidelined. That had to sting. Or maybe it was a personality clash. Paul was sharp, confrontational. Barnabas was literally known for being an encourager. They were polar opposites. Or, hey, maybe as a younger guy, he just couldn't deal with all that sudden pressure and conflict.
And this really just brings us to a simple but deep truth that the source material points to. Our lives are this series of choices. John Mark was at a massive fork in the road, and the choice he made was about to have some pretty big consequences.
And in this case, yeah, the price was high. His decision to leave wasn't just some personal thing. It was seen as him completely abandoning his responsibilities. It was a failure that would end up causing a huge rift down the line.
And that rift, it showed up when it was time for a second mission. Barnabas, ever the encourager, he wanted to bring his nephew, John Mark, along. Give him another shot. Paul's answer? A hard no. Absolutely not.
The text uses this very specific Greek word for their argument, paroxysmos, which is where we get our word paroxysm. So this wasn't some polite disagreement. It was a sharp, convulsive fit of anger. So intense that it completely shattered their partnership. The dream team was done. Barnabas took John Mark and sailed to Cyprus, and Paul chose a new partner, Silas, and went a totally different way.
So if the story ended right there, John Mark would go down in history as the guy who not only quit on his team, but also broke up one of the most effective partnerships ever. A total failure. But thankfully, the story wasn't over. not by a long shot.
And this is where the path to redemption really starts. So after Barnabas takes him back, Mark also ends up working closely with another leader, the Apostle Peter, who actually starts to affectionately call him my son. See, John Mark didn't just disappear after his failure. He was quietly being mentored, being restored, and all of that was just setting the stage for the final and most stunning step in his whole journey.
So years go by. Paul is an old man now, sitting in a Roman prison, and he knows he's facing execution. As he's writing what will likely be his very last letter, he makes a specific request, one that brings this entire story full circle.
He asks for Mark. The very same man Paul once said was unfit for the job, he now calls helpful, even useful, to him in his final days, from an irresponsible deserter to an indispensable partner. I mean, wow. That is the final verdict on John Mark's failure, and it's delivered by the one person he disappointed the most.
The story of John Mark really leaves us with this question, doesn't it? It's such a powerful reminder that we are not defined by our worst moments. Our stories aren't finished after one single failure. It suggests that our ability to come back, to be restored, and to prove useful once again, well, that's a far more powerful ending to any story.